Hello, everybody. This is Jim Grisanzio. Welcome back. We are here at Oracle Code in Tokyo for the last interview of the day. And we've saved the best for last, as usual.
All right,
Eric
great.
Sedlar.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Eric, you're the VP and Technical Director at Oracle Labs.
Right.
So, I was watching a talk you were giving recently, and you were talking about GraalVM, and I've actually had some conversations with some of your guys actually at these events. You know, when we get anybody from your GraalVM, we like to get them because it's a really interesting project, you know, for a conversation. But you said something very, very interesting in your talk, that you guys now have released an enterprise version of Graal, right? But that you're supporting it right out of the labs.
Right. You can think of it as kind of a startup within Oracle Labs. So we're doing soup to nuts, not just development, but product marketing and support and sustaining engineering is all reporting into me, and it's all kind of integrated.
Is that a normal model? I mean,
it's not. It's not a normal model, right? No. It's because it's a very technical product, and so we're trying to do things differently in the labs in a number of different dimensions, and so we managed to convince Larry that this is the best way to support the product. So that's what we're doing here.
So how do you balance development and support then? I mean,
well, we just started really, Jim. So it's probably a premature question for me to answer. We have a number of people that are dedicated to sustaining engineering, and then support has to be kind of worldwide. We have a team in Morocco, a team in Malaysia, and a team in Mexico. So we kind of got stuck on the letter M. So those teams are actually contributing to the product because they're managed by product development. So they can, while they aren't answering questions or waiting for people, they can do performance tests. They can help find bugs and address product issues too. We're hiring kind of engineers, not just phone techs to work in these jobs.
All right, interesting. Now, when did you actually release the Enterprise Edition?
Last week on Thursday at DevOps UK. So it's been
well,
like
that must
a
have
week.
been the talk I was looking at then.
Maybe that was it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I had heard it was obviously coming out, but it was just immediately released here.
Yes, last Thursday.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about some of the distinctions between the Community Edition and the Enterprise Edition.
So there are the two major set of things that we do is performance and security. And performance is by far the biggest thing. So we have 62 optimizations in Graal Enterprise in the compiler, and 35 in the Community Edition. There's a number of other optimizations that you see in Enterprise, which make it about 20 to 25% faster, depending on how your application. Of course, your mileage will vary. And then the big thing we do is for native code, we run it in a sandbox, so it's bounds checked and garbage collected. The joke that I kind of make is people think that C and C++ are languages you compile ahead of time statically, and that Java is a language you just-in-time compile at runtime, and we support the opposite. So you can run Java as a statically compiled ahead of time language, and C is interpreted and dynamically compiled with the JIT compiler. So you can kind of mix and match different things in different ways, and so the Enterprise Edition supports safe ways to run native code. And that's important because the number one source of security vulnerabilities nowadays is still buffer overflows, which it's been for 20-some years. And so in every language, Java, JavaScript, Ruby, Python, R, have native libraries for access to system internals, special instructions that Intel may have added, or for performance reasons. And you may want that code to run safely like you expect Java code to run in.
Interesting. Okay. What has been the reaction recently? I mean, to Oracle releasing a product on based on this code base.
Well, I think we did pretty well on Twitter so far. According to my Twitter experts, I'm not a major Twitter
You mean in terms of the reaction on
yeah, there are lots of good tweets and likes and followers, and all the other Twitter metrics seem to have been good so far. A couple of the slides that I had seem to have gotten like good, I don't know, I use the word viral, but kind of good traction. One of them is that I joked that Oracle will now support GraalVM to the heat death of the universe, which it feels like is our policy, and so it's kind of an on-brand joke, I guess, and so that people seem to like that joke. And that is one of the things that you get when it's an enterprise product. As you know, that even if you aren't paying for it, that it's part of the Oracle ecosystem, and it's not something that's going to go away anytime soon, and it's going to percolate throughout the Oracle customer base.
And actually, that's what that's what I was also wanting to sort of intimate toward is that it's a product, right?
Right.
And, versus everything being open,
Right.
Based on the open code. Any reaction to that?
Actually, the reason I have a couple questions that I made up myself and based on kind of comments that I've heard, and one of them is like, hey, why are you charging money for this compiler thing that people have given away for free in the past? And the point I make is, it's actually good for the world if people can make money in compilers, because there hasn't been much investment in this technology for the last 2 or 3 decades.
You mentioned Bill Gates.
Bill Gates got his first start building compilers. The basic compiler was the first product that Microsoft sold, and that's kind of how he leveraged that business. But since then, I don't think a lot of people have tried. Borland did some stuff, but there hasn't been a lot of investment in the space, and there hasn't been a lot of technological advancement in the space. Sorry. And so we, by having an enterprise edition, we think that that you can make money in the space, but more importantly, it's a better way to make money than selling ads, or the other ways people try to fund open source projects. We aren't going to do a GoFundMe. No one's going to donate money to Larry Ellison, right? And I think it's becoming a more accepted model for open source projects that, Docker and MySQL and many other products have some sort of enterprise value add. The thing is, because we are Oracle, people are always worried about getting, it's a big company and we're just going to try to screw them and make money. So we have this, the thing I talk about is called smooth downgrade, which is we ensure that if it runs on an enterprise, you can also downgrade to the community version and, just pay more money for hardware and pay more money for power, but you have an alternative to keep your application running without paying us. Right. So I think that makes people, that I think has really kind of helped people realize that, hey, it's a really fair proposition we're making, probably more so than a lot of open source companies with an enterprise edition, where there's kind of more features that you can't go away if you don't use the enterprise version.
Right. So I've had in this, when we go to these conferences, we try and grab as many Graal people as we can, and I've had some conversations with some people from the labs, and I've been hearing more and more. The more conversations I have, the more I hear about more companies and individuals contributing to the overall, open source community.
Right.
Of Graal. So maybe you can talk for a few minutes about that. What's the ecosystem looking like out there for Graal? Well,
what's really happened, I think, that's new in the last 6 months is that the Java frameworks, especially for microservices, are all getting on board with Graal. So Spring and Micronaut and Red Hat just announced Quarkus a little while ago, and then the Oracle WebLogic team has Helidon, which is the microservice framework for J2EE. And so those things have all kind of come out and said, we're running on GraalVM, we're certifying, and the Quarkus team did a tremendous amount of work, a lot of investment in third-party libraries like Hibernate and Kafka, and I think they have a dozen or two they list on their website that they've certified with GraalVM, and that you get the startup and footprint advantages of the native image build using those third-party libraries. And that's, I think, the most compelling voice of support you can get from the community is major open source products or projects from third parties are all now targeting GraalVM and making sure they work with GraalVM. So that's super cool. And
it seems thriving at this point. It seems like there are people who are really contributing bug reports and suggestions and getting involved directly.
Right. Yeah. People trying all kinds of weird stuff.
Is it increasing most recently? Because I know when I first was having these conversations, there wasn't a lot of awareness, but there's a lot more awareness. It seems a lot more awareness now.
Well, I think that it's kind of gaining momentum. So we launched our community version and said, hey, this is going to be real. We're going to launch this open source product. We did that last April at Oracle Code Boston, and then I think people started to realize, okay, this is going to be a real thing. It's not just some labs, kind of throwaway project. And the third-party, people have started to say, hey, this is really useful, and start to get behind it. And that, once the stone kind of picks up some momentum, then, third parties see other third parties doing it, and then, it's kind of, the followers are, kind of, they start to exponentially grow. I'm sure there's a bunch of other sayings I could use that would probably get me in trouble. So,
Okay, so you just released last week. So, like 6 months from now, sort of, in general, what can we expect to see?
well, I mentioned a bunch of things on stage today in my talk. Other platforms. So we're going to come out with an ARM64 version. Windows support is still limited, but the key parts of the platform are there. Native images there on Windows. We need to get on closer to the leading edge of the Java release train. So Java 11 support is going to come out later this year, hopefully. And so I think those things are important. We'll have some alternative garbage collectors for native image, and let's see. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. Off the top of my head, those I think are the two big things.
Now, do you get out a lot in terms of your own evangelizing of this? I mean, in terms of, because I know you've got a lot of people who are out there at conferences and talking, and obviously there's now third-party people involved as well. But what about you?
Well, now that we've launched the product, I've kind of moved from internal evangelism to external evangelism. So I definitely have a lot more travel lined up in the next few months. Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll be seeing you at various conferences then.
Yes,
So,
we'll be out more this year.
Cool. Final question, which I have never asked you before, and I wanted to spring it on you here. What drives you? I mean, when you talk about these things, I notice that you really, you're up there. You really get into it. When I look at your talks, I say, this guy's into it. What drives you? What's your main motivator? Is it community? Is it just the technology? It's
just cool technology. I've worked at Oracle a long time. The Soviet Union still existed when I started at Oracle, and I've always enjoyed that I've been able to work on very cool long-term projects. And so one of the things I think is nice about working for a company where it's still run by the founder is that they're willing to take a lot of risks. And an 8-year project is a tremendous amount of patience to have for a technology to incubate, right?
But it is a compiler, though. It's not trivial.
It's not trivial, but we've had multiple other projects we've done in the labs. We did this massive, crazy project in the labs to build a chip, a processor just for running SQL. Turned out the economics of that didn't work out, but we spent a lot of time over like 6 years on that. That was called Project Rapid, and the software part of that is actually going to ship soon in MySQL cloud service, and so that's very exciting. But it's really been able to being able to work on very fundamental technologies that change the way the technology ecosystem is stacked up, and kind of like shuffle the deck cards a little bit. That's really exciting to me. And Larry's always kind of had an appetite for crazier long-term projects, and I've been lucky enough to work on those for like most of my career there or so. And in the labs, I only just get to work on one. I get like half a dozen or a dozen
Right.
crazy cool projects to work on. So
with piles and piles of really, really smart people around you.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's great about the labs environment, right, is because we have all these grad students and university collaborations that keep kind of a constant stream of new people coming in. We've got around 100 interns that are in various states of their graduate student education that are working with us for sometimes just a summer, but often they come back multiple summers and they continue to work on the projects, when they're back in school. And we have people that kind of do most of their master's studies with us and then go back to the university and write a thesis. And that's given us the opportunity to really try crazy things. We have a student that is using Graal to run x86 binaries. And then we have a student that's compiling Graal into JavaScript. So you can take an x86 binary and convert it into JavaScript, or you can, we have some people that worked on Smalltalk, all kinds of really interesting projects where, you'd think in a commercial enterprise like Oracle, why would we be wasting money on, crazy stuff like that? But I think it's useful in that it shows us what's possible with a platform, and
you never know what's going to come out of this.
Yeah, and some of those things work out to be really useful, and some of the stuff that we're shipping in Graal now were just kind of cool side projects from a grad student in the past, right? So, the labs is a super fun environment.
Cool.
And it's also been, an opportunity to work really a lot more globally, not just in the U.S., but now we're actually doing more work outside the U.S. than we do inside the U.S., which is a change from the way things used to be at Oracle. So, and working with universities around the world, not just the U.S. university system.
Right. Well, it sounds like a really interesting project, and it's entering a whole new phase here now.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely
got to figure out how to go talk to customers, and
and
deal
do
with
development.
I got to keep doing the development stuff, but now we got to deal with all the market-facing parts of Oracle that do sales consulting and pre-sales and
I'm really
marketing and all that stuff. Yeah.
I'm really interested to follow this. I'm really interested to see how this model works out long term. So maybe in 6 months we'll have another conversation.
Well, I think jump-starting new products from a research lab has been something that's been very hard for the industry to do. So we've kind of tried some different approaches in Oracle Labs, and so far they seem to be working out pretty well. So very, very, energized by that.
Cool. Well, Eric Sedlar, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
Appreciate it. And that's a wrap here from now. This is Jim Grisanzio at Oracle Code Tokyo, and we're going to do a wrap-up session with Javed, my colleague here, and then we'll be done. Catch you guys later. Bye-bye.